I'd love to hear hot takes from the panel. Go around the horn. Everybody drop. If you want to give a number rating, fine. If not, but people, I've never seen a movie this big, this divisive since Last Jedi. I want to get down to why. I think there are two reasons. You've probably heard my review already. I didn't hate it. I also didn't love it. I would give it a 6 out of 10 if forced to assign a number. There were things I loved and things I absolutely despise about this movie. Let's go around. Paul, we'll start with you and then we'll go to everybody.
Sure. I was supremely disappointed. I gave it a 2 out of 5. And I think, like everybody on this panel, none of us wanted to dislike it. I mean, those of us who did have concerns about it. I mean, that's one of the things that I've tried to emphasize. I was really hoping that this was going to, knock it out of the park for me. But it was just dumb. Like, that was my main problem with it. And every single Superman battle was completely emotion-free for me. It reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy battle with the guy's dad, Ego. Where
right.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was pretty good right up until this CGI fest. And this happened in this movie where I can't remember the Proton River, where Superman can't get out and he's got the green baby that was actually really badly rendered.
Baby Joey?
What?
Baby Joey.
Baby Joey, right. From Friends. And it was like watching the Transformers, just a visual, clown vomit. I just could not get into the cacophony of visual nonsense out of it. It really bothered me. I was concerned about the lack of creativity. Superman and the two bad guys are zooming up into space. He's going to do something. One of them has got their nano dick down his throat and he's and sucking hard on it. What he's going to do? He's going to jump. Oh, he's going to freeze them. No, he's just going to turn around and go back down and smash into the earth. Okay, we know the tropes. We know what to expect. We know that they're, the same thing is going to happen. And it's up to the writer to come up with that twist that Tarantino, for instance, does really, really well, where, okay, the trope is here. Oh my God, what a great twist. And there was none of that in this entire movie. And I didn't like the typing monkeys. I didn't like the social media turnaround that was instant. That was absolutely impossible. The TV screens moving the story along. The quantum realm thing, I didn't like that. I didn't like the folks in the cube. I didn't like the fact there was a whole bunch of people in Hawaiian outfits, intense, around the gateway. I didn't understand it. So many people, hordes running around. Anyways, I the Kents. Oh, Ma and Pa cattle. Holy crap. I mean, Jesus, Murphy. It's just everything was dumb in it. The rift that was cracking the earth open that could be stopped by a computer code, really. And I didn't like the fight scenes that were orchestrated by Luther, L-52, G-39, X-22. Okay. Anyway, so I got lots more to say, but I'll leave it to the rest of the gang to talk about it. But I just thought it was endlessly, mindlessly dumb, and not in a good way.
To be fair, I think Lex Luthor was playing Battleship.
Yeah,
and, he was shouting out those remarks.
He was playing Battleship. It really.
Yeah. Paul, I'm unclear about your feelings.
Steph, what do you think?
I started off by giving this movie a 6 out of 10, and then I watched it a couple more times, and it went down to a 5. It's mixed for me. It's not great, but it's not extremely terrible. And I think that I say that because I see a lot of people having fun with it. Personally, I thought a lot of things were very mixed for me in this movie. I think that this is a Superman for a more modern generation, for the TikTok crowd, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not for me. It's not something that it's not a movie that I would go and see and think, yes, this is Superman. This is the superhero that I've been reading about all these years. James Gunn nailed it. It's not a movie where I would say this is a great Superman. This is definitive Superman. This is how Superman's supposed to be. I love the color palette of the movie. I thought it was great. It was bright. I loved Metropolis. I love the setting. If we're going to get like different stylized versions of all of these different superheroes and different DC settings, like backgrounds, that would be great. This setting is really good. I loved the cast. The cast themselves were cast perfectly. It's the script around them that I had a problem with. And it's how these characters were portrayed that I had a problem with. I would go into detail, but not just yet. I guess we'll get into that later. But yeah, 5 out of 10 for me. It was very mid. I just, the more I watch it, the more I can find other things that are wrong with it. So
P23 Badger.
Yeah, I went in. I wanted to like it. I wanted to get those emotional moments. I've seen it 3 times now with 3 different audiences, 2 like the people that were gonna like it because they paid to see it early for the most part, and then like an opening night. It's still a 6 out of 10 for me. I like the idea of it. I see what they tried to do, but in practice, he just gets beaten for most of the movie. And even if you can explain that that's because they knew his fight, whatever, adapt and overcome. I didn't really see that until the very end, and by the time you do get that, because David's so good, it's just I feel like Brandon Routh and the other ones, like, bro, just let him not get beat up. And when he is doing cool stuff, as Paul pointed out, it's a freaking river, anti-proton river. Like, I love all the comic book stuff that is straight from the comics. That's great. Portals and interdimensional imps, but as depicted, it just looks goofy. And there's just not one serious moment that is not undercut by some sort of joke, either in the background or the prisoners trying to, I'm the one, they're doing something. Just literally every moment, there's something that takes away from that feeling of epicness. And yeah, I get why people like it, but for me personally, and I just don't want Superman depicted like that for most of the way. Lastly, Clark is supposed to be a 30-year-old man who is a journalist and has been Superman for 3 years, and he acts like he's 19, fresh out of college, and hasn't been Superman for 2 days. I just don't get it. So that dissonance ruins it for me. And yeah, as also was pointed out, overcorrection to Snyder. When you just say the city evacuates in 10 minutes, then there's no stakes whatsoever. It's just property damage.
X15 Nerd Cookies.
So I guess I kind of like to rank movies like, did I have a good time or did I have a terrible time watching it? And I had a good time watching this at the theater. It was entertaining to watch, and the theater I was in was packed, and they all were entertained as well. It definitely has flaws. There's one in particular flaw that does bother me, as far as maybe not for the reasons that other people are bothered by it, but as far as the convenience to the story in regards to the Jor-El's message, that twist just seemed incredibly convenient to work out for Lex Luthor in furthering his agenda. But we can get into that if we want to talk about that later. But overall, the casting, the characters, I was worried that so many characters would take away from Superman, would just feel incredibly bloated, and I wouldn't like that maybe they would be not written well. I guess was my concern, that I wouldn't care about the side characters, but I liked everyone for the most part, and they were all great. The casting was great, and that was a concern that it would be too overstuffed, but I thought it was handled nicely. David Cornsweet was great, I think, as an early years Superman. It was bright, it was lighthearted, and it was fun. So thumbs up.
Great. Okay. P27 DA.
All right.
Really, that move?
Yeah, right. It's fun. This is what I'll give you the positive. I'll give you the positives immediately. It's a lot of fun. All right. I had fun watching young Superman really just taking his first L, like his first time losing. And then how does he react to that? You know, what is he doing in this universe? We're just getting to know him, and he's already taken his first loss. I would have preferred to see a little bit of Superman ahead of that first loss. Maybe give me 5 minutes of Superman instead of the, little text opening. Give me 5 minutes of Superman doing great things, being the hero, showing his strength, showing who he is, and then he hits that crater. Like that's how I would have preferred it. And then I think it moves way too fast in the opening. I think the first 30 minutes is the weakest part of the movie because this is the setup. We're supposed to get an understanding of who these characters are, where they are in this particular moment. Lex Luthor is just like running circles around Superman, and it's like you don't get a time to pause and really, okay, let's assess what's happening here. She's already getting into this argument with Lois Lane. So we have this whole Barovia, I forget the other country. We have this whole like international conflict going on. And it's like, yo, I'm just trying to get to know who Superman is right now. And you're already giving me a lot of like story points. And I just want to know the character right now. I think that's one of the major problems that I had. But how he's dealing with all of this is an interesting concept, and I'm glad that James Gunn kind of did it. It's just narratively a mess. It's just a narrative mess, and he doesn't seem to have like a constant through line that I can follow. He's all over the place. We're dealing with the Justice Gang. Mr. Terrific seems like he's the only competent person in this entire film. Everybody else is just, kind of winging it and figuring it out, and Lois to a certain extent as well. But yeah, I just wish that James Gunn slowed down the pace, maybe gave us an extra 20 minutes of, Superman's, how it all unravels, after Lex Luthor drops his little bomb on everybody. Like, how did this unravel? Let's spend some time here. Let's watch Superman slowly go through this instead of it just happening in a 2 or 3 minute scene. That to me is what was the weakness, because once we got to that point, I was actually okay with the rest, even though it had a lot of CGI issues. There were still some problems with, some of the characters, but I still was okay with it. So for me, I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. Strongly on that beginning. I think the beginning was the worst part.
Rob,
he don't get a number.
G19. Rob,
Bingo.
I liked it. I was actually surprised by. I mean, I knew I was going to get a whimsical comic related Superman, and probably because I've read so many comics in my life. It really felt like I was reading an issue of the mid-'80s Justice League, the comedic version of Justice League that J.M. DeMatteis and DeMatteis and Keith Giffen wrote. And that's where Guy Gardner had a lot of the one-punch scene with Batman and all that. And it was pretty wacky. I was surprised at just how wacky the movie was. Everything was wacky in it. And I was sort of captivated by just how weird and wacky it was. Like the banks of monkeys, when you see Crypto chasing flying squirrels in a a clear bubble, and it was right out of the Silver Age to me. And seeing the monkeys with wires in their heads typing, I mean that would have been a cover in 1963 of a Superman comic. So I was sort of I was really sort of captivated by it. None of it seemed, for me, nothing was obvious. Like, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be at all. There was nothing that was really particularly grounded about it. And I think when I was watching it, I was so incredulous about what I was watching because it was so in the opposite direction of what we were expected or what we've been sort of conditioned to think that I found myself just grinning goofily at the whole movie. But when it was over, it was clear to me that this movie was probably edited and had studio notes to the edge of its life, because they made a big deal about having all these actors. There's barely anyone who gets to play a scene. There's very few. The scene when Lois and Clark, Superman, have that interview sequence, that's like the only scene, like real scene in the whole movie.
What do you think of the parents, or the Earth parents, Ma and Pa?
Well, I thought it was an interesting choice to make them really in the middle of nowhere and make them like Chato said, the country bumpkins that they really were, and that was not a way. I mean, we're used to seeing them as almost like religious figures. They're the Ma and Pa Kent are essentially saints on Earth. Whether it was Glenn Ford, Kevin Costner and Diane Lane being Superman's parents, like these two beautiful movie stars, always struck me as a little disingenuous.
Yeah, I agree.
But seeing it go the other opposite direction where, very simple salt of the earth people, I found that choice interesting. And I've been watching Pruitt Taylor Vince for so long but it was an interesting choice. The thing is, it's not the choice people want, because here's the thing. We want Ma and Pa Kent to be our parents. That's what I think the audience has always wanted. I did not want those parents as my parents, but I just didn't want them. And I think when you're watching Superman, the character of Superman is wish fulfillment for guys, and I think that everybody, and what James Gunn was doing was he was subverting the idea that we're looking at these godlike people that we all admire and respect and perhaps want to be. He was flipping all of that on its head. And so when I got to the end of this movie, it was so full of wacky sci-fi. Somebody said that I wasn't going to like it because of all the sci-fi. I forget how they said it. And I'm like, no, you had me at hello with all that. So I really enjoyed all of this. I thought it was a glorious mess, and I enjoyed almost all of it. I wish, though, that the movie was, when it was over, I thought it was like 90 minutes. I would have watched those characters. What it's missing is character interaction. The characters are just there for, I felt the same way when I was watching Dune. I'm like, wait a minute, is anyone going to talk to each other in this movie? Everyone's like, and Denis Villeneuve says, and I loved Dune Part 1 and Part 2. I think they're the most amazing science fiction films ever made, but you get very few scenes between people, as opposed to, I watched the entire third season of Foundation. There's some great writing in that show, and there's some great moments in every episode with all the characters. And I was waiting for people, because some of the fun, like I like the one scene where Lois and Jimmy and Clark were talking about what was going on in the Daily Planet. You don't even meet Wendell Pierce. There's no Perry White scene where Perry White's admonishing the crew and telling people what to do. And
just in the background, basically.
You barely see Wendell Pierce. And how do you not? I mean, Frank Langella in Superman Returns was great when he says to Lois, no one remembers why you got a Pulitzer, just that you got one. I mean, he was
got
great.
a lot of stuff,
and you got none of that. And I was surprised at how little, like, even as much as I like Mr. Terrific ran the Justice Society. He's got like 20 patents. He's an incredibly accomplished guy, and I would love to have heard a little bit more about his background than just seeing him as part of the Justice Gang, because he's a very capable, very interesting character. And I thought he was great in the movie, but I would watch him for 20 more minutes.
Hey, the movie gave you Beckett falling around in the back of the Beck Bennett falling around in the back of the Mr. Terrific spaceship without a seat. That was hilarious.
Yeah, and you didn't really even know any of. I mean, these people. There was no. I agree with everybody. They should have brought us into the world.
Yes,
a little bit more. Like, I'd heard that the original cut of this movie was a day in the life, like a Monday, a week,
day 1, day 2, day 3.
Yeah, I would like to have seen that, actually. And I think that they cut it down. There's probably a lot of people weighing in on this film. So
yeah,
that's
what happened, Rob. Like you said, you didn't get a lot of the Daily Planet staff. And why? Because you got the Justice Gang. You got to add something to the Justice Gang. Okay, so we need to talk about these characters. We got to have their moments. So therefore, Perry White, he gets sidelined. He's a background character now. We already know who Perry White is. Who's Mr. Terrific? Who's Guy Gardner? That's what they decided. But
you don't even
instead
know.
of leaning into the Superman world. We should have been diving all the way in with Superman, but they got all of these other characters that they got to give screen time to. Otherwise, why are they in the movie? And so that's, I think, was one of the big problems. We got to lengthen it out.
I think we're going around the horn, by the way.
But I just want to say that you don't even know that Maxwell Lord finances the Justice Gang. You hear a line and then you see him once on TV.
That's it. That's how you know. The news guy says it.
And I'm like, show us that. I mean, that's the whole thing about the Justice League. Maxwell Lord, that character, was created for that Justice League comic, and he was great. It was a whole new, the way they show that. It's one of my favorite, and I love the Justice League, but when that comic came out, I was vehemently against it. I'm like, how dare you make a comedic Justice League comic book? And it turned out I loved it. And to see that brought to life, I couldn't believe what I was seeing most of the time, which is why I probably liked it more than a lot of people.
Rob can talk for 6 hours straight, so let's keep going.
Yeah, well, Dante.
Yes, sir.
We're
not doing spoilers, right?
Quick take.
Quick, yeah.
We're spoiled.
Okay. I mean, my quick take is it was fun. It was a fun movie. I think people went in with a lot of expectations about what this movie should be. I think the baggage that comes with this movie is the fact that, we've had all these Superman movies before. Some were good, some sucked. And I'm not even talking about Zack Snyder stuff. I hated Superman Returns. So I had a good time watching it. Yeah, there were some problems, and I felt like things were a little rushed, and we didn't really get to know these people the way that, we probably should have, especially for our first Superman film. There were things I really definitely hated about it that I either it needs to be corrected or James Gunn's taking a big L on it if he doesn't. But other than that, man, I had a good time watching it. I feel like it's a Superman movie. I didn't feel like Superman was cut in his own film the way some people were trying to say he was. I don't think he was depowered and getting it in weak the whole time. I don't understand that argument at all. He lost to Ultraman. He lost to Ultraman twice. That's it. So and if we're going to compare,
he doesn't get one hit. He doesn't get one hit. Both fights.
But we're talking about Ultraman, who's his equal. So
what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? You don't even show him.
Okay,
so he's just gonna get
Zack Snyder's Superman lost to Batman, a human being. So and people love the Henry Cavill Superman, right? He lost to a human. So and we're going to get into like nitpicking, and that's what I'm saying. I enjoyed it for what it was. I had a good time watching it. I don't understand some of the arguments, but some of the arguments I very much do understand because there are some valid, criticisms about this movie. So
more Beck Bennett.
Without spoiling it, he gets beat up, then he gets metaphorically beaten up in a conversation, then he gives himself over and gets beaten up, then gets beaten up, and you know what I'm saying? By the time he starts
having a rough time,
by the time he starts getting a hit in,
when you're writing a story about
you want a hero that wins all the time throughout the entire
when you're writing a story about the Impossible Man,
he's not allowed to get one hit. He's not allowed to get one hit.
It depends who he's fighting, right? I mean, he beat. Okay, we're not doing spoilers, but he did win in the end, right?
Sure. Yes,
he won.
Isn't that what a superhero movie is supposed to be? Superhero gets beaten down, and then comes up victorious,
and then he wins, and that's exactly what he does.
I feel like that's always the conversation about like Superman. I think I've had this conversation with others before that they don't like Superman. They think he's boring because he's so uber powerful. And it's just, there's no stakes that they feel like. They like other heroes more that are like like Batman, like Wolverine, or characters that are flawed, that have like just unique skill sets, maybe like one skill, but someone who has so many, an array of incredible abilities to where he's basically invincible. It's interesting to see how that what the story is interesting to me is how can you beat someone who is almost virtually invincible? And I think that's what they were trying to do, and maybe appeal to those specific audiences and fans who want to see stakes raised for such a powerful being, and to see kind of like the 4D chess that people have to these extreme lengths to go to in order to have an interesting story to where you're not sure if he's going to win at the end. So
but there was no problem solving. So with Ultraman, when he was having that final battle, he didn't cotton on to the fact that someone was guessing his moves and anticipating it, and why would they know that? If I had written this, I would have gone, wait a second, how do they know that what I'm going to do next? I need to think outside of the box and come up with something that is going to fool the puppet master and defeat Lex Luthor.
Isn't that what he did?
That was circles.
Isn't that what he did?
No, he didn't.
He said, "Crypto, go play with your toys."
By the time he catches on to it.
So,
maybe I'm not seeing that. I've only seen it once.
Yeah, but I mean, Crypto,
but I thought that's what he did.
Yeah, I want to say what I thought about the
movie. Crypto destroys the drones. Oh, big deal. Like, really?
But that's how Lex was.
How it was done.
So,
I mean,
no, I know that, but that was unbelievably unsatisfying.
Let's get Alan real quick. But I rearranged everyone. People on the left liked it. In the middle row, we all are like kind of liked it, and the people on the right did not like it. So I've rearranged everybody.
You and I have the same
Based
score,
on-
Chris.
But Alan, what did you have to say?
Okay, so I got to see Superman a second time in the theaters. I saw it in 3D IMAX. This is probably the only movie I'd say was really good in 3D. But here's the thing, and I'll just make one point. This is the Gunverse. This is how James Gunn. This lays the foundation of how the tone of how the Gunverse, how the DCU is going to go forward. Here's the thing that I liked about it, though, is as crazy and neurotic and insane and goofy that the Gunverse is, what stood out to me was Superman was the normal guy. He was us. He was the one who stood there standing for goodness, for kindness, for justice. He lived by values that his parents gave him, his Midwestern parents gave him, and that was his guiding principle in life. And to me, what made this movie was just this overall theme that Clark and Superman were going to do things because it was right and because it was going to save lives. And you just don't see movies like that anymore. No, we have to go the goofy route. We have to go the dark route. But in this one, I mean, quite frankly, it's Clark and Lois who are just the two normal people in this movie. And I think when the other movies come out, Supergirl and all that stuff, they're going to go the James Gunn goofy route. But what I liked about this one was that you had the hero. You had an understanding that Superman was above it all and that he had values he lived by. And that is the reason I will defend this movie.